Let's be honest. The moment a woman starts pulling away, most men believe they're watching love disappear. They assume she's losing interest, getting bored, or choosing someone else. But sometimes, the exact opposite is happening. Sometimes the distance you fear isn't a sign that she's leaving. It's a sign that her emotions have become so intense that she no longer knows how to carry them. That truth confuses countless men because they expect love to look simple. They imagine affection always moves forward, always becomes more obvious, always feels safe. Real emotions rarely follow that script. I'm not saying every woman who becomes distant is secretly in love. People pull away for many different reasons, and it's important not to assume someone's feelings without clear communication. But there is a psychological pattern that many emotionally invested women experience when their feelings begin to grow beyond what feels comfortable. Love doesn't only create excitement, it creates vulnerability. And vulnerability can be frightening. Imagine standing at the edge of something that could completely change your life. You want it more than anything, but you also know that if it breaks, it could hurt more than anything you've experienced before. For many people, including many women, that emotional risk activates protective instincts they don't even realize are taking over. Instead of moving closer, they hesitate. Instead of speaking openly, they become quieter. Instead of appearing confident, they begin questioning everything. From the outside, it can look cold. Inside, it often feels like emotional chaos. This is where many relationships quietly begin to fall apart. The man notices the distance. He starts chasing harder. He sends more messages. He demands reassurance. He asks, "What's wrong?" The more pressure she feels, the more overwhelmed she becomes. Not because she doesn't care, because she's trying to understand feelings that suddenly seem much larger than she expected. Here's something most people never talk about. Strong emotions don't automatically create confident behavior. Sometimes they create cautious behavior. When someone realizes another person suddenly has the power to deeply affect their happiness, their brain naturally begins scanning for danger. What if I get hurt? What if he changes? What if I care more than he does? Those questions rarely stay inside someone's head. They begin shaping behavior without realizing it. She may create small amounts of distance not to end the connection, but to protect herself while she figures out whether the relationship feels emotionally safe. That doesn't mean you should chase someone endlessly or excuse unhealthy behavior. Healthy relationships still require honesty, respect, and communication from both people. But understanding this emotional dynamic can stop you from making one mistake that destroys promising relationships. Panicking every time someone becomes emotionally cautious. Sometimes the strongest feelings arrive quietly. Sometimes love whispers before it speaks. And sometimes the person fighting their emotions the hardest is the very person whose heart is changing the most. The real question isn't whether she's pulling away. The real question is why. Because the answer to that question changes everything. Let's go a little deeper, because this is where many men completely misread what's happening. When a woman begins falling deeply in love, something unexpected can happen. The relationship stops feeling like a casual experience and starts feeling emotionally significant. That shift often changes how she thinks, reacts, and protects herself. At first, everything feels light. Conversations are effortless. She laughs easily. She isn't overthinking every message or every interaction because she has very little to lose. Then, almost without noticing, something changes. She starts imagining you in her future. She remembers little things you said weeks ago. She notices when your mood changes. Your opinion begins carrying more emotional weight than it did before. And that's exactly when fear quietly enters the picture. Not because love is bad, because love suddenly becomes valuable. Psychologists often describe this as the natural tension between connection and self-protection. The closer we feel to someone, the more emotionally exposed we become. While everyone experiences this differently, many people instinctively slow down when they realize how much they care. Think about that for a moment. The very feelings that make someone want closeness can also make them more cautious. She may spend longer deciding what to text. She may wonder if she's showing too much interest. She may replay conversations in her mind, questioning whether she sounded too eager or too distant. None of this necessarily means she's playing games. Often, she's simply trying to manage emotions that suddenly feel much bigger than before. Many men see this hesitation and assume attraction is fading, so they react emotionally. They double the number of texts. They constantly ask for reassurance. They start monitoring every reply, every delay, every change in tone. Ironically, that anxiety often creates the very pressure that makes emotional closeness harder. Healthy attraction grows best when both people feel free to be themselves, not when every interaction becomes a test. Here's another truth that rarely gets discussed. Someone who truly values the relationship may become more careful with their actions because they don't want to damage something meaningful. Have you ever noticed how people are usually more nervous before something important than before something ordinary? The same principle applies to emotions. When someone genuinely cares, they often become more aware of the possibility of making mistakes. That awareness can temporarily look like uncertainty from the outside. This doesn't mean every mixed signal is hidden affection. Sometimes distance really does mean someone needs space or isn't interested. That's why paying attention to consistent actions, respectful communication, and mutual effort matters far more than trying to decode every small behavior. The strongest relationships aren't built on guessing, they're built on trust. Instead of asking, "Why isn't she acting exactly how I expected?" a better question is, does her overall behavior show care, respect, and genuine investment over time? That question keeps you grounded, because real emotional maturity isn't about chasing certainty every hour of the day. It's about recognizing patterns instead of reacting to isolated moments. When you understand that, you stop fearing every bit of silence. You stop assuming every pause means rejection, and you create something incredibly attractive without trying to force it. You become emotionally steady. That steadiness often gives another person the space they need to lower their own emotional defenses, and that's when genuine closeness has the best chance to grow. One of the biggest mistakes a man can make is believing that love is proven by constant closeness. It sounds romantic, but real emotional connection doesn't always move in a perfectly straight line. Sometimes it moves forward, pauses, and then moves forward again. When a woman begins to care deeply, she may start paying attention to things she once ignored. She notices whether your actions match your words. She observes how you respond when life becomes stressful. She quietly watches whether you're emotionally consistent, not emotionally perfect. This isn't necessarily a conscious test. More often, it's her mind gathering information to answer one important question. Can I truly feel safe with this person? Safety isn't only about physical protection. Emotional safety matters just as much. It means knowing that disagreements won't immediately become rejection. It means believing that honesty won't be punished. It means feeling accepted without having to perform or pretend. Many people, regardless of gender, become more observant once a relationship starts feeling meaningful. That's because emotional investment naturally raises the stakes. This is where confidence becomes different from control. Some men think confidence means always having the right words. Others believe it means never showing emotion. In reality, emotional confidence is much quieter. It means you don't panic every time something feels uncertain. It means you don't immediately assume the worst when communication slows for a day. It means you allow trust to develop through consistent actions instead of demanding instant reassurance. That kind of stability is rare, and rare qualities are memorable. Imagine two different reactions. In the first, she becomes quieter for a few days. He immediately sends message after message, asking if she's upset, wondering if she's losing interest, and trying to force clarity before she's ready to give it. In the second, he notices the change but stays calm. He checks in respectfully, continues living his own meaningful life, and leaves room for an honest conversation when the time is right. Which response feels more emotionally secure? The answer usually isn't complicated. People often feel safest around those who remain grounded during uncertainty. That's because emotions are contagious. If you become overwhelmed by every small shift, the relationship can start feeling emotionally exhausting for both people. But when you're steady, patient, and respectful, you create an environment where openness becomes easier. That doesn't mean ignoring problems. Healthy relationships require communication, accountability, and mutual effort. If distance becomes a long-term pattern without explanation or willingness to communicate, it's appropriate to discuss it honestly. Emotional maturity isn't pretending everything is fine. It's addressing concerns without fear, accusations, or pressure. Here's something worth remembering. The goal isn't to convince someone to love you. The goal is to become the kind of person who can build a healthy relationship when love naturally grows. Those are two completely different paths. One is driven by fear. The other is guided by self-respect. Ironically, people who feel secure within themselves often become easier to trust because they aren't constantly seeking validation from someone else. Love isn't strengthened by chasing certainty every minute. It's strengthened through consistency, patience, respect, and the courage to communicate honestly. When you stop trying to control every outcome, something surprising happens. You begin noticing the difference between temporary emotional hesitation and genuine incompatibility. And that difference can save you from walking away too soon or holding on far too long. The moment a woman realizes she could genuinely lose you, or that you truly matter to her, her emotions can become more complicated than most men ever imagine. Not because she's trying to confuse you, but because the heart rarely moves as neatly as logic does. When feelings become deep, expectations often grow alongside them. She may start wondering whether you're as committed as she is. She may notice small changes in your behavior that she would have ignored months earlier. She may become more sensitive to inconsistency, not because she's looking for reasons to leave, but because she's looking for reasons to stay with confidence. This is something emotionally mature men understand. Strong relationships aren't built by eliminating uncertainty. They're built by handling uncertainty with honesty and patience. Many people believe attraction is about creating mystery forever. While a little independence is healthy, lasting emotional connection depends on something much stronger: trust. Trust is built through repeated experiences. It's built when your words consistently match your actions. It's built when you listen instead of immediately defending yourself. It's built when your behavior remains respectful, even during disagreement. These moments may seem ordinary, but they're often the moments that quietly determine whether love continues to grow. Think about how people evaluate long-term relationships. Very few remember one perfect date forever. Instead, they remember patterns. Did this person make me feel respected? Did they remain dependable? Did they communicate honestly? Did they stay calm when life became difficult? Those patterns become the emotional foundation of lasting connection. If a woman is developing deeper feelings, she isn't only paying attention to how exciting you are, she's also noticing how emotionally reliable you are. Excitement creates attraction. Reliability creates security. Healthy love usually needs both. This is where many men accidentally sabotage themselves. When they sense emotional distance, they stop being themselves. They overanalyze every conversation. They begin performing instead of connecting. Every text becomes carefully calculated. Every interaction becomes an attempt to get immediate reassurance. But genuine confidence doesn't need to force outcomes. It allows relationships to develop naturally while still communicating openly when something important needs to be discussed. That doesn't mean ignoring your own needs. A healthy relationship requires effort from both people. If someone repeatedly avoids communication, refuses accountability, or leaves you feeling consistently uncertain over a long period, it's reasonable to have an honest conversation about whether the relationship is meeting both of your needs. Mutual respect should never be one-sided. Remember, understanding someone's fears doesn't mean accepting unhealthy behavior indefinitely. Compassion and boundaries can exist together. In fact, they should. One of the strongest qualities you can develop is emotional consistency. Not because it guarantees someone will fall in love with you. Nothing can guarantee that. But because emotional consistency allows the right relationship to grow without unnecessary fear, confusion, or pressure. When someone feels safe being imperfect around you, when they believe they can express uncertainty without immediately losing your respect, when they know difficult conversations won't automatically become emotional battles, that's often when emotional walls begin to fall. Real intimacy doesn't arrive because two people never feel afraid. It arrives because, despite those fears, they slowly choose honesty over hiding, trust over assumptions, and understanding over panic. And that choice, repeated again and again, is where lasting love quietly begins. The strongest man in a relationship is rarely the loudest, the most mysterious, or the one who always knows exactly what to say. More often, it's the man who remains emotionally grounded when emotions become complicated. That's the quality many people overlook. When a woman begins falling deeply in love, she isn't only discovering who you are, she's discovering who she becomes around you. Does she feel accepted? Does she feel heard? Can she express uncertainty without fearing immediate judgment? Can she admit she's scared without feeling weak? These questions are rarely spoken aloud, but they quietly shape how safe a relationship feels. Many men believe attraction is maintained by constantly impressing someone. While thoughtful gestures matter, long-term emotional connection usually depends more on consistency than performance. Consistency isn't exciting in the way movies portray romance. It's answering with honesty. It's keeping your promises. It's treating someone with respect even when you disagree. It's remaining calm enough to listen before reacting. Those habits may seem ordinary, but over time they become extraordinary because they're surprisingly uncommon. Now imagine what happens when she notices those qualities. Her guard doesn't disappear overnight. Trust rarely works that way. Instead, little by little, she begins relaxing. She shares more about her fears. She tells you stories she doesn't tell everyone else. She becomes more comfortable showing imperfect parts of herself because she's learning that she doesn't have to earn acceptance every single day. That's one of the quietest signs that emotional intimacy is growing. Not perfection, comfort. Real closeness isn't measured by dramatic declarations every week. It's measured by how safe two people feel being authentic together. This is also why patience matters. Not passive waiting. Intentional patience. The kind that understands meaningful relationships take time to build because trust grows through repeated positive experiences, not through one unforgettable conversation. If you're always rushing to define every emotion, you may accidentally interrupt the natural pace at which deeper connection develops. Instead, pay attention to what truly matters. Is there mutual respect? Is communication becoming more open over time? Are both of you making consistent effort? Are difficult conversations leading to greater understanding instead of repeated resentment? Those are far better indicators of a healthy relationship than trying to decode every moment of silence or every delayed reply. Here's another truth worth remembering. Love isn't about convincing someone that you're enough. Healthy love grows when two people choose each other while remaining true to themselves. You don't need to become someone else to deserve genuine affection. You need to become someone who can give and receive it in a healthy way. That requires confidence, but not the confidence that pretends to be fearless. The confidence that accepts uncertainty without letting it control every decision, because uncertainty exists in every meaningful relationship. The goal isn't to eliminate it. The goal is to build enough trust that uncertainty no longer feels like a constant threat. When you understand this, you stop chasing temporary reassurance. You begin investing in lasting connection, and that's when something remarkable happens. The relationship stops becoming a battle over who cares more. It starts becoming a partnership where both people gradually lower their defenses, communicate more honestly, and discover that real love isn't about never feeling afraid. It's about choosing trust, respect, and growth, even when vulnerability feels uncomfortable. If there's one truth I hope you remember after this conversation, it's this. The healthiest relationships are not built by two fearless people. They're built by two people who choose honesty, patience, and mutual respect, even when love feels uncertain. If a woman pulls away for a short time while processing deeper emotions, don't rush to write your own story about what it means. Observe the bigger picture. Notice the consistency of her actions over time. Give space where it's healthy, communicate where it's needed, and never let assumptions replace honest conversation. At the same time, remember something equally important. Your feelings matter too. Real love should never require you to abandon your self-respect, ignore repeated unhealthy behavior, or spend every day wondering where you stand. Understanding someone's emotional world is valuable, but healthy relationships are built by two people who are both willing to communicate, listen, and grow together. That's the balance. Emotionally mature people learn compassion without losing boundaries, patience without losing confidence, kindness without losing yourself. The men who build lasting relationships aren't usually the ones trying to control every outcome. They're the ones who continue building meaningful lives, treating others with respect, communicating clearly, and allowing trust to develop naturally. Ironically, that's often what makes them attractive in the first place, because emotional security is calming. It creates space for honesty. It allows both people to stop performing and start connecting, and that kind of connection is far more powerful than any clever line, any dating trick, or any temporary strategy. So if you ever find yourself wondering why someone who seems to care suddenly becomes quieter or more cautious, resist the urge to panic. Instead, ask better questions. Has the relationship been built on mutual respect? Are both of us communicating openly? Are we making each other feel emotionally safe? Are our actions consistently matching our words? Those answers will tell you far more than fear ever will. Remember, love isn't measured by how intensely someone chases you. It's measured by the quality of trust you build together over time. When trust grows, walls slowly come down, conversations become deeper, silence becomes more comfortable instead of frightening. Differences become opportunities to understand rather than reasons to leave. That's where real intimacy begins. Not in perfection, not in certainty, but in two people choosing each other, again and again, through honesty, consistency, and genuine care. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Here's my question. Have you ever experienced someone becoming more distant just as the relationship started feeling more serious? What did you learn from that experience? Share your story in the comments. Your perspective might help someone else who is going through the same situation. If you found this video meaningful, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more insights into relationships and female psychology, and share it with a friend who needs to hear this today.